Welcome to another Alfresco video. We are covering today how to create an extension for the Alfresco content application. You have all the source code available in the Alfresco GitHub account on this Alfresco content app project. And this application is the new UI for Alfresco that is replacing the legacy SER web UI that has been used for years. So this new application is relying on ADF, Alfresco Development Framework. This framework is based in Angular, so probably you need to learn some concepts related to Angular before starting with this tutorial. You have this link where all the information on deploying and developing this Alfresco content application, it's including details on this documentation. And today we are going to focus on how to create your first extension. This tutorial is relying on ACA version 2.2, but we are going to work today with the latest version, that is ACA 2.8.0. Also, we are going to use the latest ACS, that is ACS 7.1.1, and the latest version is using NodeJS 12 instead of 14. But despite of that, all these different steps are more or less the same you can apply in your environment. The first thing we need to do is to create our development environment. And for that, since ACA is a UI application, we need a working repository in order to test our development. So for that, we are going to create a simple Docker deployment with this Alfresco Docker installer tool. We are going to choose just default options because we only want the repository listening on port 8080, and all the other things can be by default. So let's start this in the background so we can have the repository listening on that 8080 port. Starting with the extension, in order to start with that, we need to clone the repository. So yes, let's copy this one, and we are going to clone the repository. We are getting all the information from GitHub, all the files. So we have the source code of the application ready. Another thing we need to do is to create some environment file, including some data, some parameters. In our case, we are only going to use the ECM host that is related with Alfresco. So we are going to create this file, including this ECM host with the local host and the port we are using in our test. So with that, we are ready to test if everything is working fine in our environment. Let's start by installing the all the Node modules that are required for the application, and after that, we'll go to the npm start script just to see that everything is working as expected. Once everything is ready, we can start the application. This is going to start the web browser by using localhost in port 4200. And in the meantime, while this is starting, we can start exploring all the source code for this application. So let's open the source code that we clone in this folder. I'm using this Visual Code tool, but you can use any other if you feel like more comfortable with some other application. You can see this app folder that is the one we are going to use in order to deploy our extension and in order to create that extension. So moving back to that, it's building all the Node modules, it's linking the application, and finally, when everything is ready, we are going to see how that works in the UI. So we have the application running, and if everything works as expected, we are going to connect with our repository to get the right credentials, and the application finally is running locally. So once we check that everything is working as expected, we are going to start creating the extension. So for that, we are going to use the NJ tool. We are going to generate the new extension with that command. And this will include all the scaffold files, all these my extension with karma packets and so on, and also the source code, the default source code, the scaffolding for the extension, and we will be prepared to start coding our extension. It's also including some packages, and once that is ready, we can check that everything is fine, building the extension just to see that everything worked as expected. And this is working fine, so we can start coding the extension. You can see that now we have a new folder, this green folder with changes. So we create this new my extension folder. You can see that there are also some other features of the ACA applications that are also created as modules. In this projects folder, you can find all the different modules of the ACA and also the new one we created, this my extension module. So let's go to the module. This is like the default that was created by NG, but we are going to use a different source code just to use some of the features of the framework. So let me copy that. So you can see like we are including some Angular modules, but also the Alfresco specific stuff with the material module, the extension module, that is the one we are going to use to add this new feature to the application, and the translation module that is used to provide I18N resources, so like strings in different messages in different languages. And also we are using the component and the service. So the component is very simple. We are just adding simple text, and we have also the service that by now is empty. We are importing all the different modules we are going to use. Also, we may have our translation provider. We are not going to use messages for this sample, the service, and the extension configuration that is used in this my extension JSON file that we are going to define later. And the module itself is just registering the component, the my extension component, but also we are adding some sample code in order to control if this feature is enabled or not in the UI. So for that, we are creating a new evaluator with this code that by now is missed. So we can declare this method in the service, and we are going to go with that simple implementation just to test that everything is working as expected. So from that, we have our module ready. So this is a new component that is declaring a message, that is printing a message on the screen, and that is using this true control. So it's going to be enabled like every time. In order to create the extension, the configuration of the extension, we are going to create a new folder, assets folder, and we are going to create a new file, that my extension JSON file that we declare with the in the module. So this one, and in this one we are going to include some extension for the for this module. If you want to learn more about the different extension mechanisms and the extension format, you can go to this web page in order to learn all the different things that you can extend in default UI. In our case, we are going to add a new root, that ext my root, that is associated with this component, and we are going to include that in the navigation part. So this navigation bar is this one, and we are going to include a new module, a new component in this bar. So with that, we are just again ready to see if everything is working as expected, if the extension is running fine, if we created like everything we need, and from that we can go to the integration of this module with the ACA application. It looks like everything is going fine. Our module is working as suspected. So we are going now with the integration of this module with the ACA application. So for that, we have a specific folder in this source application, and we have the extensions module. So for this extension module, we are going to add our new module. That was my extension module, this one. So we include this module in the application. Also, we need to import the module. So with that, the module is now part of the ACA. And then we have also on the source the assets, and the assets we have also the app extensions JSON, and we are going to include the reference for the configuration of this extension. So my extension JSON, and after that we can just go to the main Angular JSON file that is including the module. The module has been included at this point, but we are going also to include these assets, this configuration, in order to be able to read that inside this content CA application. So for that, we need to find this projects content CA architect build options. And at this point, we are going to add the configuration for the extension with the name, with the assets folder that we created, and we are going to add all that information to the plugins folder of the application. With that, again, we are ready to see if everything is working as expected. So we are going to install again the extension just to see that everything is working fine. And after that, we can start the application, the ACA application, just to check if everything is working as expected in this modify ACA application. So let's start the ACA application, and that should be including default ACA code, default ACA UI, but also the new feature we added. So you can see all the different files we created for that. Remember that we started by adding a new project, this my extension project, that is including some code in order to print a message on the web page. And after that, we were just adding this this module to the extension module, and also some new assets in order to read this configuration. And with that, we should be ready to test that everything is working as expected. If you are experimenting problems at this point, I started the application. The navigation bar was populated with my new option, but the text was not included in the page. So what you need to do is just to modify this package JSON file in order to add also your extension to the building process. So just build my extension, build extension, and copy. That's the important thing. Copy all this information to the application assets. So just let's run this process in order to have all the assets on the right place. So the ACA application can't find this configuration for our new module. And after that, we can start again the application, and we are going to be able to see all the new features we added. So just remember to create also this script so the assets can be included in the deployment of the ACA application. Okay, so now that everything seems to be deployed successfully, and that we copied that resources to the assets folder, we should be able to find that new My Extension option in this navigation tab. And if we click at the extension, we can see that My Extension works. That is coming from our module, from that My Extension module, and from the component that we were designing. So we have now this ready in our local environment, but we are going to see now how to deploy that to our running Docker Compose. So let's stop the application and let's build the package so we can copy this application to the Docker container, so we can see our changes integrated with all the Alfresco stack. Once the Alfresco content application with our new feature has been built, we can find a new folder in our deployment application, this Alfresco content app folder. On this folder, you can find the compile application, including the My Extension module. So we can copy the application to our Docker folder. We are copying the ACA application, and we are going to add a volume in our Docker Compose in order to use this new application for the ACA. So we just need to add a volume on the content application. Let's go with that. We copy that locally to that contency folder. And since we are deploying that on engines, then the right folder to copy the ACA application is this one, this Share Engines HTML folder. So with that, we can start again the Docker Compose, and that will include our changes. So let's start the Docker Compose. And now, by using default port for this Docker Compose for the application, that is port 8080, we are able to see the new ACA application with the changes that we were developing. Remember that while we were developing, we were using that 4200 port just for local development, but now we are going to see the changes inside the regular ACA application. We are including this external application on the ACA container, and we are able with that to deploy all the changes we are creating in ACA with Docker. It's still not working. Let me check that. It looks like that working now. So let's try if we have our new feature ready. It's still starting, so we need to wait a bit more. Now that Docker Compose started and the repository is ready, we can test if our application, if our ACA application with the modifications have been deployed and in that Docker Compose. And it looks like that because we have like my extension, and we have that my extension works when we click on that. So this was first tutorial on how to deploy new extensions to the Alfresco content application, and we will be including some more material on that. We will be creating real extensions, and we were also exploring how to deploy that and how to maintain all your modules or your new features with the versions, how to deploy and deploy that from this Alfresco content application. But for today, that was enough. I hope that was useful, and stay tuned because we are going to explore this ADF in depth in the future. So nothing more for today. Bye.